Hey, what's up, everybody? It's me, Danae, and I'm here with a message for you. Today, on this fine Saturday I am having, and I hope you are as well, I feel guided to do in with the old, out with the old, in with the new type of reading. It's more or less a pick a pile, but I'm using my really old cards, as you can see by how tattered and faded they are, literally taped at the seams, and my new cards, which we've pretty much been using here since I started this channel. And I just felt the message was past and present, or even future projection. So out with the old, in with the new. And I am going to timestamp, but I figured nobody in their right mind would just tune into an out with the old message, and then probably everybody more or less will want to tune into the in with the new, because that's the vibe that most of us are on, that I feel most connected to. So I will timestamp, but obviously it makes probably the most sense consciously to tune into both and just see what, if any, of it resonates with you. All right, so in any event, pick your pile if you wish. Out with the old, in with the new, and let's get started. First pile number 1, out with the new, with my super old beat down tattered cards. Let's see what's on the bottom of the deck. Oh shoot, we got the strength card, and then this kind of popped out on the bottom with the chariot card. Out with the old, strength, and this is interesting. Oh, pride. That's what I get. Pride. That's what's out with the old. The adverse of the strength card. Well, Leo energy in general, and the strength card definitely implies a projection of pride, but in the most upright position, of course, in the most positive frequency. How we could read that with something that we might be releasing or leaving in the past is the adverse, which would be pride and ego, in a sense of caring what other people think, of worrying about appearances, about fixating on mistakes and more or less judgment of self, in a sense, or fear of being judged from the outside looking in. So we're definitely leaving that behind and moving forward in a more powerful and prosperous, with a more powerful poise of success. Maybe perhaps that has been something that's been overcome with the chariot card, and that's why it peeked its head out like, we ain't still on that, we off that. And this also can also be an indication of like a struggle, in a sense, between your higher self and your carnal nature. Where there's a little bit of lack of balance, or just a tug of war in an imbalanced way, where it's hard to kind of keep an even kill between your spirit and your flesh. But this card in the strength upright position definitely implies that there has been a balance achieved, and that you have prospered in strength and overcoming just exclusively satisfying your carnal and humanistic natures, those aspects of us that can sometimes in an imbalanced way lead us into more diabolical frequencies, i.e. the devil in us all, and just keeping us from the most prosperous move ahead, literally. With the chariot card, there's an overcoming of such that has happened. And even here, I always forget, sometimes I forget to highlight these two entities here with the black and the white sphinxes here. I think you say sphinxes with the ES. I don't know, sphinx. But this is the energy that you have, how he's kind of lording over those vibrations, not in a derogatory sense is how I'm picking it up, but there is a self-control here, is what I'm sensing. There's self-control, there's balance, and there's been a successful overcoming of what can often be, a really tough battle when it comes down to the fight between your flesh and your spirit. Many lose that battle. Many do. We all do, as a matter of fact, in some way, shape, or form at some point in time. Okay, we got the High Priestess. This is about secrets, and yeah, moving out with the old is secrets of your emotional self. You know, this is like the moon card is representative of emotions, and it in itself is like things that are in the dark, that are unknown, perhaps psychological aspects of yourself that have either been a secret to you, or you've been keeping a secret from expressing. You know, with the High Priestess here, she's kind of that energy that she may know a lot, but she doesn't always share a lot. You know, she's the keeper of divine secrets, as it said in tarot, but that doesn't mean she'll always share. She, as a matter of fact, has more or less in the highest vibration, great discernment on what should be shared, you know, and what should not, you know, what should be concealed. And the connection between these cards, I think, is more from an emotional and psychological inference. You know, the moon, Cancer energy fueling her intuitive nature, her emotional intelligence. As the High Priestess, as I said, sometimes there are things that she just won't share, and perhaps the out with the old is being more is us leaving behind being as secretive, for the most simplest way to put it, but being, what's the word I'm looking for? It's like, it's not just secrecy. It's almost like what I'm feeling is this vibration of being almost afraid to share. You know, being so I can't think of the word right now, but it's being so resistant to expressing things because there's more or less a fear of the impact that it might make. So with all the things that she knows in the High Priestess position, she may be very selective on what gets to be expressed because, you know, she's over thoughtful about, you know, the timing, you know, and the consideration of that intel, you know, how it will be received, perceived, if there is a reception for what she might have to say, or what might be coming up for her intellectually or psychologically. Sometimes there's a resistance to sharing that information, not because there's not a desire to do so, but because more or less of the apprehension of the acceptance that it may or may not receive. So we're leaving that behind. Or if this is your pile, you know, maybe it's not for everybody, so definitely take what resonates, but we're leaving behind, you know, concealing and being overly protective of our emotional expressions on account of outside acceptance or lack thereof. We're just sharing how we feel guided to and how we feel aligned to. Of course, that doesn't mean just spewing out any and everything, because the High Priestess still holds a high level of discernment in all things, you know, that she feels and that she is divine to know in her spirit. However, there's less of a need to be as protective of that information, or even protective of yourself, on account of, you know, what the external interference or objection might be. Okay, so not only can you feel free to connect to that intel and feel, you know, feel justified and affirmed in what you're receiving, and that divine alignment, you can feel assured and protected to express it as you feel led to do so. Okay, so we're leaving behind fear. Yeah, that Devil card tried to peek out. Okay, and here's an overflow of emotions here, because what's being left behind is poverty. And that's the synergy here, that this is like that wealth of spiritual intel, you know, that ultimately, as the High Priestess, she's learned to kind of to captivate in a lot of ways. This is what's going on inside of her. And this is how she's holding it. Like nothing's going on here, nothing to see. I'm just sitting here reading the Torah, reading my Bible, reading the Quran, reading whatever it is that you read or whatever you subscribe to, spiritually or not, whatever the case may be, just meditating and praying in my own space. And meanwhile, this is all that's going on inside of her. And I feel like what's being left behind, I just heard that so clearly too. A lot of what the high priestess is a spiritualist in her own right, and as I said, it doesn't mean she has to be religious. It doesn't mean that she even has to be one that's in a position of spiritual or religious servitude per se, meaning she serves in some capacity of a church or any particular congregation of sorts of a religious nature, even though it looks as such. This is just really someone that is very much so intentional about maintaining an alignment to her intangible self. That spirit, that small voice within, she's tapped into that. She's watching and listening to the cues in her surroundings that are speaking constantly. She's in tune to the synchronicities that are happening in life, whether it be by way of numbers or birds, not just birds in particular. I'm hearing birds, but animals. It could be a message through a movie or a TV show. It's someone that is always tapped in to how the universe is speaking to her or him in the masculine energy, or to her or through her, And as I said, this is the well that is never running dry because, as long as we are alive and breathing, the universe is always speaking. And in a lot of ways, those that have those types of gifts have been outcasted from society in the most conventional and traditional sense, where there is this wealth of prosperity happening on the inside, but on the outside, it doesn't translate. Whereas it literally, you have spiritualists that literally are broke, doing God's work, but don't materially or physically have much to show for it. They're devoted, that's that old conventional ideology that if you are, if you're a pilgrim unto the divine, that you more or less denounce, wealth in the worldly sense. And I feel like that's what's being left behind. That's what spoke to me really hard with this Five of Pentacles. First of all, that unconventional expression being called into spaces of agreement and being more welcomed, even in places and spaces before, i.e. the church, i.e. established religious congregations or, establishments, for lack of a better word. I don't mean to say establishments twice, but see how they're like on the outside of the church, because a lot of people that have gifts that have been considered otherworldly, of divination, of intuition, of psychic power or nature, have been categorized and even demonized as something that is, or people that are not blessed by God or not welcome in the presence of God, but more importantly, more primitively, not welcome in the presence of those that called themselves people of God, because God never said that, actually. That's just we, the people, setting certain parameters and constraints on, basically trying to hold the monopoly on God in different ways, shapes, and forms on account of our own projection of judgment. It's just what we do as humans, unfortunately, until you learn to subscribe to the highest nature of you and you truly take in some of the very own principles that you subscribe to in different religious factions, where most of them teach an abstinence from judgment altogether, because our perspective of what is righteous is too skewed to make a prominent judgment. Even if you know the Bible per se front to back, you will still not be qualified to say the move that God is making or the universe is creating in this present time. You could never be qualified for that, because the spirit is always evolving and we are the ones catching up with it. It's not the other way around. So anyway, I feel like to this point, what's out with the old is this rejection of souls that are divine in nature and have the intention to be divine in their devotion, but haven't found a place within conventions and then within traditions, whether they want to or not, because some just don't want to, they're not interested. But I feel like the walls are coming down where there's going to be more of a synergy between the more established structures of religion and even, the more I don't know how you say it. I want to say sacred spaces of spirituality, but I really mean something that's just a little bit more, on the fringe of society, perhaps. Something that's a little bit more outrageous or out of the box than what we've been conditioned to contribute to or to create. That's out with the old. So not only is there going to be a synergy between the two worlds or multiple worlds at one time, where everyone will start to learn how to coexist and appreciate one another's gifts, no matter how strange they may be, how unconventional, how untraditional. There may be more of a space for this energy to be welcome in established spaces, and there may be more of a welcome in that regard for these spaces to connect with these vibrations of energy, so that those that have felt shut out and left out, and this goes back to that what I was saying about how the high priestess often she often covets her expressions of divinity and her knowledge and truth and wisdom, because of this energy right here, feeling cast out on account of it. So as these spaces are more open to receive and accept and maybe even understand, and perhaps even be more aware of that energy vibrating within its very walls, those that are on the inside looking out, perhaps will find more courage, back to that strength card, more courage and pride in what they possess as gifts and talents and callings of the divine, to express them. And those that have been on the outside looking in will feel more at ease, working in synergy, so that we can just continue to build a massive magnified movement, that it's not so much separatism and judgment and, you versus me and we versus they, and perhaps maybe one day all religions can find a space, in some way, shape, or form to worship together, or to at least have a common ground of understanding, would be the most ideal futuristic utopian perspective that I could hold. And then on the other side, on the more practical side, let me say again, out with the old is that spiritualists would be broke in their pilgrimage. That's out. The wave is most certainly that you can be rich and righteous. And that goes for those on the inside of so-called establishments, church walls, and on the outside, because that idealism, I'll say ideology, is something that persists on either side, and it maybe even comes from the inside and has worked its way out. But it's this idea of unworthiness, that if you are working for God or you're committed to the divine, that you shouldn't even aspire to wealth or aspire to riches or of the sensational comforts of society in the way that, we all would love to indulge in one shape or another. But I believe we're moving away from that. There's nothing wrong as long as if you're following a righteous path. Riches and wealth should be your right, RITE in that regard. If you are righteous, then that is your right to, and RIGHT for that matter. you should be, your harvest should indeed match your sowing. Why not? The only disparity between the two is this mind of unworthiness, that and scarcity and lack, that then translates in the natural form, so that those that have devoted themselves to spiritual servitude in one way, shape, or form. Again, not always in the most conventional senses, but just being intentional about living a righteous life unto your own highest self and highest supreme authority, shouldn't have to walk the earth looking like vagabonds, like wretches undone, like out with the old of that. Out with the old. We rich and righteous up in here. Your soul should match your purse. Ultimately, they should be in alignment, direct alignment, just like that. This Ace of Cups, there should be an overflow. As there is in the spirit, so should there be in the flesh. In spirit and in truth, we are worthy to be rich. Okay, let's see. Yeah, and look at that. Yeah, okay, the death card, that's transformation, okay, and also actual death. I'm gonna put these up here and see what happens. Okay, so we got, or should I continue down here? Yeah, let's get a little pyramid. Or should I don't know. We'll see. If it needs to move around, it will. But I want this to be too long since I'm doing 2 in 1. So when I start feeling that itch that it's going too long, because this ain't just the regular rigmarole, I need it to 30 minutes or less, Spirit. So tap me on the shoulder. All right, so we got the overflow here. We got the death card. We got the 10 of Pentacles, and we got the 5 of Swords. And then we got the Queen of Swords, which is definitely a good confirmation of some truth and clarity here. Maybe even magnifying the Queen of the High Priestess in a sense, in some regard. Let's see. Spirit, what's the message? So out with the old, with, I would say, death in its most practical sense, but the spirit of death. Yes, okay, thank you. It's the spirit of death. I know that there's something that's being translated in the earth about how we hold death, how we perceive it, our surrender to it, or really our fear of it, more or less. And I feel like that's being transformed also in that death card energy, in a sense, for us to see the eternal life of our experience. How, because I feel like the one of the biggest confinements of the evolution of the human spirit is our fear of death, and more importantly, our obsession with survival. So if that can be eliminated altogether, we can get rid of that in the middle. Look what gets to be pushed together, the overflow in the spirit and the overflow in a sense in the physical. This is the 10 of Pentacles, where it's just like all, you can't, generational wealth, this is a dynasty of prosperity. This is never ending, more or less, as long as the mindset of prosperity continues to be passed down. I feel like what the spirit of death, as we sensationalize it in the earth, is a defeated mindset. It keeps us always bound to our mortality, ultimately, with this 5 of Swords card. And it's like, as long as we're always afraid to die, in the way that it's been sensationalized or projected onto us to perceive, there will always be a wedge between that ultimate fulfillment of life that we have really been, destined to inherit, because the 10 of Pentacles is like an inheritance. It's a divine inheritance with the way that it's positioned here. The Ace of Cups, the High Priestess, and as I said, the Queen of Swords is like an expression of truth. Again, the High Priestess truth, that they're, as above, so below. So there, this energy here, and the Queen of Swords is, is really changing our intellect to perceive new possibilities of life by eliminating our fear of death. That's what I hear, straight up off the bat, because that's what's been defeating us and keeping us stuck and bound. And, and psychologically, so with the sword energy, is what we obsess about. Ultimately, it's pretty much what fuels everything that we do. A lot of us haven't made a move or do make moves. And look at this, Ten of Swords. Yep, it's over. It's over for that. There's a transition and a transformation coming about our obsession of death in this way, where we're always worried about when the end is near. This is literally the end, the Ten of Swords. Now, we in tarot say everything is fine, so to take it at that face value, everything is fine in our lives, that there shouldn't be an obsession about the so-called end time. And I think it's going to be on a revelation of some deeper truth that hasn't been, known, at least in the experience of life that we're all having in the earth now, that hasn't been previously known about what death truly is and what it isn't. There's something that has not been revealed. High Priestess energy, there's a secret about this that we're going to all be privy to, or those that are willing to receive, that truth and that knowledge are going to be privy to, so that we can eliminate that fear, so that we can eradicate ourselves from the obsession for survival and truly begin to move into the thriving of life, where everything is a possibility. Everything is a life force, creating more life, more, like I said, with the Ten of Pentacles, you can't spend all that in a lifetime. It continues to be passed down. It's an energy that is everlasting. It's eternal, dynasty after dynasty, generation after generation, and so on. It's like considered the oldest generations of wealth that exists from our knowledge, and multiply that times infinity. Like that's the possibility of inheritance that we are privy to, that we are the beneficiaries of in the most spiritual sense. When we are surrendered to our higher selves, that's ultimately the reward that it affords us. But because there's been so much interference in the earth and so much projection, particularly about death, about poverty, about scarcity, about lack and limitation, ultimately, it's hard to really connect the dots between the spirit and the truth of it all, with all the, the white noise in between, and it isn't all that white. It's quite loud and obnoxious when you think about it, right? Day to day, we're always faced with our mortality by society's projection. And I feel like there's some revelation, that's what I'm getting with the High Priestess and the Queen of Swords, the Ace of Cups. There's some revelation that's going to have us to incur a transformation about our identities and our relationship to the limitations in life and the lack thereof, that finally there will be some cold hard evidence, because the Queen of Swords is cold hard facts. You know what I mean? The High Priestess, sometimes she can be taken for granted, because as I said, she looks a little funny. Her projection is a little strange. She could be a little mystical, a little mysterious. So you don't really know quite how to take her at times, But the synergy between her and the Queen of Swords is no nonsense, straight to the point. She's all about facts, very cerebral, logical, and even genius in her expression of information. And there's going to be some transfer. It's no coincidence that it's as above, so below, of this information, this intel, literally this overflow of spiritual information that's coming into the earth for those that receive it and don't, but it's going to break strongholds and barriers on accordance to how we live our everyday lives, so that we're no longer fixated on what we need to do to survive, and that we're literally just allowing ourselves to live life and to thrive in every way, shape, and form. I love that. That's amazing, Spirit. I'm here for it. And yes, the Queen of Wands. And that's the so much feminine energy, man. And that's the this is the creative force that knows how to take that intel and the wisdom of her experiences and put it into action. So it's not just about information for information's sake. We're going to be incited to do something different, to live life differently, to create differently with the wand energy in a masterful way, because these are all masters: spiritual master, intellectual master, creative master, powerful in different regards. But the Queen of Wands just flopping her way out as she just did is like added value to this, this synergy here, that it's not just going to give us new information, but it's actually going to give us new inspiration and creativity. Just as I said, like, we're literally going to live life differently, do life differently, take control over our own being. The Queen of Wands she can be a territorial queen. She knows how to conquer when the time comes. She's also very protective, so it just implies that it'll be a holistic healing that will get to take place on account of this intel, where we'll be able to transform our identities from being like submissive or cold or dependent on even on divinity, in a sense, and in the lower vibration, and begin to be more autonomous with the Queen of Wands. And what's the other word that I heard? Autonomous and sovereign. Yeah, with the High Priestess and the Queen of Wands. With the Queen of Swords is autonomy, and the High Priestess and Queen of Wands is the sovereignty, to really be able to take authority over your territory, that being yourself, and of course whatever it is that you create, or conceive in the natural sense, and you're not really answering to any external interference as to how that gets to thrive, and produce and prosper. Literally taking this territory here, even as the beneficiary of this inheritance in some way. And this is energies from ancient past, like literally when we talk about out with the old, this is ancestral inheritance here in spirit and in truth. It's not just about money, it's about energetic force with the pentacles. And you're taking all the sacrifices and investments that have been made long before you, and lives before you perhaps, and now bringing that into some co-creative force of energy to produce in real time in the present. Even though this is about out with the old, it's really projecting that what's being left behind is this obsession with death, and this obsession with limitation and lack and poverty and anything less than prosperity. Ultimately, all those things that keep us off the path of righteousness, ultimately, that have us really singularly possessive by and obsessive for riches, as opposed to the righteousness piece. And then a lot of times we miss having the two in accordance, and then the riches become fleeting, and then we miss out on the internal productivity or prosperity of the Ten of Pentacles. It's here today, gone tomorrow. But when we are assured of our spiritual security, that's what it is, and our spiritual stability with the High Priestess at the top here, and we know we have the receipts of that intel and real cold hard facts in the form of the Queen of Pentacles, the Queen of Swords, and we have the resources to continue that vibration, and we have the Queen of Wands, who is the knowledge and the creativity and the inspiration to maintain it. Because once we acquire these great inheritances in spirit and in truth, there's also the second part of that is to maintain it, especially as the keeper of it, so that you can pass it on to the next generation and so forth, So it doesn't, again, get to be fleeting a fleeting experience, literally life in a flash, here today, gone tomorrow, but there's always something to look forward to, perhaps even another life to look forward to. Maybe there's some intel that we're going to experience or be revealed, that's going to be revealed about that would, as I said, eliminate the idea of death altogether, so that you don't feel like the time is always ticking on you to be, do, and have more than what's been divinely ordained in this breath, literally, of experience, because you know that there's more to be had, beyond this moment. That's something that, I mean, consider it. If you knew you could ultimately live forever, or create an experience in this lifetime that will live forever, and that could be it in the most practical sense, that you have the resources to leave a legacy that is eternal, that no one in your bloodline will ever be in poverty or do without. And that because of that, they'll continue to get better and evolve over time. You might live life a little bit differently. I think we all would and will, when that intel is not just propaganda, and purposely projected, purposely purposeless, without purpose, I should say, projected. But when it actually becomes a part of us, when you become the high priestess, the keeper of that knowledge and that intel, knowing it within your being, it becomes a part of your DNA, so much so that it becomes an expression of your natural waking life. That's the vibration. So out with the old is limitation, death in its most demonic expression, and the secrets, ultimately, the gatekeeping of universal secrets is also out with the old, because now you'll know, if you're open to receive it, you will know yourself to have full access to any intel, any information, any revelation that your heart desires. There's no gatekeeping, there's no veil. The high priestess definitely projects a veil of information between the spirit and the natural. There is no veil. If you choose to open your eye, particularly your first eye, also known as the third eye, you'll see that there's no information, no wealth of knowledge in the Ten of Pentacles that you're not privy to or worthy to receive. Okay, so that mindset is out with the old, and now let's see what's in with the new. All right, that was dope. I wasn't even expecting that, but of course, what can I never expect anything, right? Never. And the high priestess, we're gonna keep her at the top of the deck. Yes. All right. Alrighty. So I'm also putting her out the frame because we need some space. All right, so let's see. Oh, wait a minute. Was strength on the bottom of the, or was strength was on the bottom of the last deck? Okay. First of all, I didn't even say pile number 2 and with the new, okay? Because I'm astounded. Oh my gosh. So I can timestamp this properly, okay? Pile number 2 in with the new, and here we are with the strength again. I'm almost positive we started with the strength. I kind of got lost in the exuberance of that message, but I'm almost sure that we did. And when I say I shuffled these cards for about an hour each deck, I split the decks and I did not look at the bottom before I started this reading. So if this in fact is us starting with the strength card again, and I'm almost positive that we are, I'm astounded right now. Like, wow. So in with the new. So I said out with the old was that spirit of pride and ego in the lowest vibration. This is just doubling down that in with the new is obviously pride and strength and the expression of creativity in its most unapologetic form, as this energy represents, in the highest vibration, where you have, oh my goodness, I gotta pull it together. where you have completely, mastered your lower nature and you found balance. I feel like I'm a broken record saying this again if you watch pile number one, but you have mastered your lower natures. You are not subservient to it by way of yourself, of course. It's a part of you, but you found a balance in your creativity as a human force and a spirit to balance those two expressions. That you don't exclusively sensationalize your human nature, and you don't exclusively sensationalize your spiritual nature, because you're having an experience of both. And sometimes, those people that could be too spiritual, that they're kind of out of touch with the earth, they damn near levitating everywhere they go. There's a bit of a detachment in a sense, but not in the most productive sense always, from the experience of life as it was designed to be, and it's kind of connected to what I was saying in the first reading, that we're supposed to have an experience of life in a sensational way. What do you think we have senses for, But a lot of times, especially in a religious aspect, and even in conventional and traditional ways, we've been taught to almost reject our sensibilities, to judge ourselves even for the desire for satisfaction and for sensationalism, and to be for pleasure. There it is, pleasure in the most simple expression, and that's exactly what this card represents. This is Leo energy, 5th house of pleasure, and we're actually still teeter-tottering at the end of Leo season, and also in Venus retrograde in Leo. So this is definitely on target, where we're actually, reintroducing ourselves, or reconnecting with the things that do bring us pure pleasure, and also allowing ourselves to release those things that do not, So there are some exuberances that we have attached ourselves to that may have brought some gratification of sorts, but haven't necessarily had the most productive impact on our lives. And there are some things that we've rejected for whatever reason. There are many reasons, maybe the conventionality of life, the traditions of life, what, society projects should be acceptable and should not, so many different reasons, just ultimately wanting to be in acceptance with life itself, that we've rejected aspects of ourselves that are pleasured by certain things, and ultimately have diminished our experience of life, and the most joyful expression that it could be. This is solar plexus energy. So anyway, with all that to say, this is the strength card. This is in with the new of the strength and the courage to be and express ourselves as exactly who we are. The whole of us, the dark, the light, the good, the bad, the ugly, the beautiful, to find some synergy of all of it, or at least some understanding and a balance, once again, that taking full inventory of what truly is of value and what is not, and making a decision on your own as to how those energies get to coexist, whether they do or not, but it all being on account of your own autonomy, not in external interference. So it does take a great bit of strength to stand up to the conventions, or just stand your ground, period. It's not really a fight per se, you against the world, but it's just a standing your ground in the midst of the sway of society, people telling you one thing, projections of other things, and people, places, and things doing and expressing things that may be in opposition to what you feel called to do, or what you feel is satisfying for your life, or successful or sensational in your life. It does take a bit of strength and courage to stand your ground on those objectives, that are organic to you, and be unapologetic about it. So that's what's in with the new. Expressing yourself without any fear or any anxiety, or even consideration in most cases about how you'll be perceived, understood, rejected, responded to, like there being almost an indifference to the external world when it comes to the purest pleasures of your life experiences. That's in with the new. So let's see what we got. Oh, that's too many. Let's see what we got here. I'm feeling pretty good in time. It might be a little bit over an hour for this one, but I hope you'll understand and tune in otherwise. If you didn't watch the first pile, it was really good. So, you know, it was good to me. So I hope it's good to you. All right. So, and yeah, everything is fine, as we like to say in tarot, which you know I have trouble subscribing to. But in this case, it actually does have significance. That end with the new is, you know, the end completion of cycles of I would like to say self-sabotage. That's what this is giving me. You know, this is about sabotage, deceit, the end of a cycle of such where there's been some great, what do you call it? Like, what's the word? I can't think of the word right now. But where there's been some great, it's killing me that I can't think of the word. When I said sabotage, but there's another word that's on the tip of my tongue, and I can't find it, but maybe I'm not supposed to. So this is the end of those moments that those cycles, I would like to say, because the 10 is the completion of a cycle. It's not just a moment. It could be a season. Hell, it could be a lifetime of demise and sabotage, and whether it be from an external interference or from your very own nature. I'm feeling more of it from an internal source, where we've, especially in the way that I was speaking about the strength card and us standing our ground on what's important to us to experience and express in our lives, we've self-sabotaged ourselves in a lot of ways because we've allowed those inferences and interferences to become our realities. So it in a lot of ways, it has put to death some of our very hopes and dreams, you know, that we've organically had for ourselves, that have even been divinely impressed upon us for the sake of conventionality and for tradition, you know. So it's the end of that era where there's no destruction of self, and because we're standing in a certain strength and power, you can't be destroyed from the outside and at all as well. You know, there's no weapon formed against you on the outside that can truly prosper against your hopes and dreams, because you're the Queen of Wands, who knows exactly. Who's this under here? I see the kid. Oh no, no they didn't. Spirit, I saw the King, but I didn't see the Wands card. I just saw King kind of peeking out, and I was like, what King is that? I just had to know. This is both aspects right here, which is amazing, because even if I'm just speaking to one, it's speaking that you've mastered both of your masculine and feminine vibrations of energetic force, which means that you are autonomous in your creativity, exactly in alignment with with the strength card, where this is Leo energy as well, the Queen of Wands. It can be any fire energy, fire vibration as well, King of Wands too, but most pronounced is the Leo vibration with the Queen of Wands. You see our little sunflower, where, you know, as you know, Leo energy, most conventionally expressed, is very courageous in their creativity. You know, that's main character energy, as we like to say. They're the star of the show, and they don't mind being so. It's the sun, literally in human form, you know. That's the vibration that we're being called to. This is what's in with the new, and both the feminine and masculine aspect of yourself, you know, your nature alone, and also universally of us all, that we're all being called to create in our highest capacity, our highest force of expression, without any apprehension, and putting an end to self-sabotaging that process of creativity by way of caring too much about what other people think, say, and believe and do, and, you know, what places accept us, what subscribers we have, what audience is listening, how many people read your book, how many people liked your picture. Like, there's no place for that anymore in terms of it measuring how you create and what you create. You know, that's another thing that's coming up, especially for those that are public figures or create in a more prominent aspect to the public, even if it's not necessarily superstar status, however, you know, you choose to receive that. But there's definitely some audience for what you do. Is what's in with the new, and I guess in the same way out with the old, is not catering your expression to who you think you can captivate most. It's creativity for creativity's sake, purely, you know, what you feel yourself inspired to express from a pure and organic intention, and knowing that that expression is ultimately going to find its audience, or that audience, or those viewers, or those subscribers, those friends, whatever it is, there's a potential for connection for, will find you on account of the authenticity of the expression. A lot of times, the greatest art gets canned, you know, on account of it not being popular or trendy enough, or not in the way of what is, you know, trending, or what people are, you know, what looks like it will sell, or what is ultimately just popular. You know, I can't say it any other way. You know, something that is most desirable, conventionally speaking, you know, that's popular with the masses. But that creates that perception of creativity, or intention of it, that motivation, I should say, for creativity, often leaves you in the self-sabotage position where you kill the very essence of the art, because you're trying to like shapeshift it and mold it into something that is more palatable for the public, you know, as opposed to creating what is organic, what feels natural, what is a delight to your own senses to create, and allowing that to find its own space. And if it's one viewer, or one subscriber, or one buyer, or one friend, or one follower, or one reader, or whatever the case may be, that would be sensational enough and affirmation enough that you created the right thing, especially when you're doing it in the purest of heart and spirit. Like, this is pure passion right here. When we're talking about the Queen and the King of Wands, they sometimes impulsively and compulsively so act on their own passion, what fuels them to love and to live. Definitely not swayed or influenced by anything outside of themselves, other than inspiration that they then still partake as a part of themselves to create from, if that makes sense to you. But not being influenced to do something differently than what feels natural to them on account of someone else's influence exclusively. Like, they're doing it, so maybe I should too. No, a true Queen and King of Wands is going to do what feels good to them, what ignites their loins, you know. And we're talking about solar plexus energy ultimately, which is the centric place. I realize it's not centrical, it's centric. I did look it up. Of creative force. You know, if that space is off, if it's imbalanced in any way, strength card as well is a projection of that, then it skews your creativity. It can even impair it a bit. As I said, it has to be in pure form for it to really make an artistic impact, for you to make the impact as the artist you are. And again, that doesn't have to mean in any sensational creative way, as much as it just means you living the life that is most beautiful to you. Venus in retrograde in Leo is exactly the expression of that, creating art out of the life experience itself, really releasing those things that are extra to that process, or interfering with that process, and really streamlining it down to what's most organic, like your tools. What's your paintbrush? What's your ideal writing, what's your ideal genre to write in, whether it be music or literature? What's your expression of dance? What's your way of motherhood? What's your way of, fatherhood? Shoot, I guess. I'm trying to bring it down to something a little less, artsy fartsy, because it's not just about that. But when we talk about Leo energy, it often becomes that, because that's the come from. But it's just really making the most beautiful and interesting expression of life for yourself and from yourself, for you most importantly, and then also for the intentions of inspiration universally, All right, so hold on, let me just light my incense real quick, which tells me that we might be running a little close on time. But again, hang in here with me. We're just going to get a couple cards out. I lost one incense. Usually that's the wind down time, about an hour or so. But here we go. We're going to light one more. And when it's about halfway, I know it's real and I got to get the hell off of here. All right, so in with the new. Pure creative expression is the takeaway from all of that. The purest of pure. All right. Let's see. Let's give me some more, Spirit. You know what I'm working with here, so help me out. The people don't want to watch when it's too many minutes. All right, that's about positive investments. And I also don't want to rush it either, because I gave a decent bit of time for pile 1, which was a great message. Again, definitely check it out if you didn't. All right, so that's about making positive investments. And sometimes I see that as, that's too many, but I'll take this one. Yeah, Magician card. Yeah, and I was just going to say, sometimes I see that as, there's a difference, a disparity in his satisfaction with his investments. Sometimes it can be making wise investments and really being persistent in, in that energy. And sometimes it projects to me a dissatisfaction with what you have planted and ultimately harvested. But here we got the Lover's card and we got the Magician card. So I'm seeing that in with the new is really there not being any there not being that the lower vibration of what I just said. Because why? You've been choosing your highest self and accepting your position of autonomy and manifestations, meaning you can create whatever you want out of anything. You can literally take that one pentacle and then manifest a 10 if you need to. So it eliminates this spirit of anxiety, about the future. That's what the Nine of Swords is giving me, this psychological, even a regression in a sense, when you've already completed a cycle, to go backwards into this energy of anxiety and almost recreate that spirit of self-sabotage on account of what you speculate is prosperous. Okay, so feel me here. In with the new is not being consumed by this vibration. It's knowing that anything that you've harvested is better than nothing. So there's no need to be anxious. You already have overcome that cycle. It can't stick to you even if it tries to, unless you give it permission to, unless you allow yourself to regress back into the state where you're dependent solely on material wealth and security and gain, when as the magician here is the projection of you that has the power to take any resources in a natural sense and make magic out of it, literally, as long as you stay connected to your highest vibration of self, highest expression of truth, staying tapped into your spiritual nature, to your divine source, whatever that may be. You're automatically empowered to alchemize any circumstance in the earth. That's mentally, spiritually, physically, psychologically, emotionally. You can literally take whatever energy comes from your sowing, whatever energy, whatever resource you have at hand, you know, whatever's been given to you and whatever you've created and sown, and make something magnificent of it. There's, in the new vibration of in with the new, there's no need to be worried about what tomorrow holds. You know, as the scripture says, today's problems are enough for today, or something like that. You know, no, don't worry about tomorrow. You're always in the space of the now, in the presence of your power, you know, in the presence of your possibilities. This Nine of Swords energy is about projecting a possible future that hasn't even occurred yet. It's like you harvested this one pentacle out of the so-called 7 that you may have intended to harvest, and you're worried that you may not eat tomorrow, or that you're not going to have enough to last you through the winter, or, you know, you should have done this, or that, and that maybe would have gotten you the whole 7. The one that is standing in the strength and the courage of his potential is going to take that pentacle again, plant it otherwise, or split it 4 ways if need be, and knows that they have the power and the creative potential to literally stretch whatever is given and make it sustainable. And that's where their security lies, not in the harvest itself, but in the power that one possesses to create the harvest and to magnify the harvest. You've been empowered to do that. And you know that because the source that you submit to has affirmed you of that power in your everyday waking life. First and foremost, you've ended cycles that were hard to overcome already. So why would you go back to it? And second, the 7 of Pentacles are the receipts of your hard work. It's that determination and persistence that you put into plowing the field in the first place that has gained you the harvest in the second place. It's only a matter of your perception of it as to what it gets to be and how it gets to prosper, you know, from whatever it presents itself as. You know, the person that's looking at this as one measly pentacle that should have been 7 may have a hard time sleeping at night. But the one that looks at it as like, yes, I got the one, we got something, let's roll with it. What can we do with this one pentacle, this one talent, this one gift, this one investment, this one job, this one vision, this one business idea, this one car? Like, what can I do with what I have to multiply it and make more? That's the perception of a winner in this in with the new, this literal new world order mentality, where there's always more than enough and there's always the possibility for more. Okay? No sleepless nights, no crying, no anxiety. What is there to be stressed about? Tomorrow's a new day with new possibilities. That's a lot, but let's see. Should I take it? Yeah, I could take it because it's not that many, it's 4. And so we got here, and I think I can stretch these over because I'm more or less think this is where I ended up on the last reading, with something like this. And then I'll see what's on the bottom. We got, oh my gosh, no way. So where I ended on the last reading was the Queen of Swords was here on the ending card at the top, and then the bottom card was the Queen of Wands. So let's see where we end up here. Let's see what's on that bottom in a sec. But for now, in with the new. Stay focused in it. Almost done. Hang in there. And the incense is not quite halfway burned, so we're doing good. All right, so in with the new, which I love here, ending with the Ace of Pentacles. We could drop the mic right there. We had the Ace of Cups in the last one, which was also cool. We got, sleepless nights about past experience, love experiences, or connections and relationships that aren't in the highest vibration of alignment. In with the new, with relationships that are very much so in alignment, and that not only encourage you to stay in alignment in the highest vibration of your spiritual stability and security, but protect it and support that. They help create it, is what I mean to say, meaning the unions, the commitments, the contracts, the connections that are being made, maybe even revisited from past life experiences or energies that are familiar to you, now coming into a regeneration of sorts, and a reunion or reconnection, are only being accepted if they're in alignment with this vibration of spiritual contentment that you're on, and we had the high priestess in the last deck too. She's actually staring me in the face right now. So there's a synergy there where there are some things that do get to carry over that matter, very prominently. So they have a place, whether they be past, present, or future. But it's the energy in which you're vibrating in and on with that frequency that matters most. So there's still a maintenance of spiritual truth here with the high priestess, but the high priestess in this expression is very, she's very intentional about her, the projection of her presence. When we were in out with the old energy, it was more so about her coming out of her shell, coming out of hiding, not being afraid to express her truth as it is, and not too worried about how it gets to be received and such and things like that. Well, now, because of that expression and with the new, and her standing firm on that ground, that platform that she's cultivated, or that's been divinely cultivated for her, she gets to be in alignment exclusively with vibrations that are in alignment with her. Anything else gets thrown out of the window, ultimately speaking, because what? It's not prosperous. It's not divinely prosperous. And it's speaking to this expression, and even in the most creative sense, because everything starts from a spiritual ordinance and source first. Everything. Creativity itself starts from that space. So if you're out of alignment with who you are righteously called to be, and that, again, it doesn't mean in a spiritual or religious sense. It means that you're in alignment with what is most organic to your being. So you're doing the things that make you feel satisfied energetically and emotionally. You're not doing the things that are the opposite. You're creating things that you feel proud to be connected to. You possess energy that is affirming for you in the spiritual and natural sense. That's not excess. It's not just excessive energy for any carnal expression of prominence, or for any primitive or superficial satisfaction. Not to say again that there can't be pleasure experienced in life. Even the high priestess, can experience pleasure for sure. Ace of Pentacles, case in point. But it's a matter of what that pleasure is really producing. Is it just producing appearances and something superficial to prop up as, something vital to those that are onlooking, or is it actually vital to the sensation of the spirit as the high priestess, or as your most holistic self? Meaning, does it truly add value to your life in every way, shape, and form? And even in the spaces that it makes you happy, that still is adding of value. But does it make you happy because it makes you look happy to others? Or does it make, for instance, you having really nice clothes, does that make you happy because you like finer fabrics and finer styles? Or is it because you just like to look rich? You having a nice car and a fancy house, is it because you just, it serves a function? You can have a nice house and be satisfied with your dwelling and, create there and have family and friends over perhaps, or the car that you drive in is reliable and you've worked hard for it. It's not breaking the bank for you to have it just to say that you do, but you have the means to be able to perhaps even pay that car off, pay that house off, and live 100% lavishly. You know what I mean? It's not a burden on your spirit to maintain or even to acquire. It's just an added advantage to the expression of life that you're cultivating. That's what I mean by even the pleasures of life having a purpose, or serving some profound purpose. That is in with the new, whereas again, as I said, you can be rich and righteous. You can be the priestess and I don't know, I gotta find another word. You could be the priestess, and experience pleasure. That's what I mean, because we know that's definitely taboo, especially when we think about a nun, which is kind of the expression of the high priestess. It used to be, and even the priest, but even now, look at how that's changed energetically, actually, practically in the world, where the Pope ordained it to be admissible for even priests to be married and have relationships now. I think he really specified marriage, but I mean, consider how many centuries perhaps, or at least decades of limitation there was on life in that sense for men of the cloth in that religion, and now it's just been completely lifted, So thank you, Spirit, for helping me make that point. Very in with the new, that there can be pleasure and in priesthood, literally in priesthood. You can be satisfied in your devotion to the divine holistically. Now, what is the party going on out here? My God, I don't even know where it's coming from. Hold on, let me shut my window. That didn't really help because it's damn near shaking the whole house. I don't know where that's coming from, so bear with me just a few more minutes. All right, so high priestess, she's doing her thing, living life like it's golden, literally, and still feeling in alignment. There's no guilt or shame or resistance to the fullest expression of life, even as she is in servitude to her spirit and to the divine, okay? The tower is here because perhaps that's a shock to the senses to others that have kind of built themselves up in this ivory tower. That's what I hear. Thank you, Spirit. This ivory tower of sorts, where these conventions and traditions take precedence. For case in point, I'm sure there are some in the Catholic religion that may have been appalled by the Pope's decision, because there have been years and years of this tradition and this rule and restriction on life in that way, that it almost doesn't even feel right, let alone righteous, to just say all of a sudden, oh, it's okay, everybody's good, live your life type of thing, But in with the new is that those that can't get with this evolution of life experience, of life force, of the human expression of life as it's being called to be, literally created to be, like spirit itself is handcrafting these experiences in the most unique ways, and then giving us permission to express them freely. And there are some that just won't be able to get with that, whether it be the acceptance of their own autonomy, their own limitlessness and freedom and liberation. And so they'll self-sabotage themselves, tennis themselves, and either just fall short to, that fullest expression and experience of life for themselves, or they'll literally hurt themselves trying to be resistant to it. One way or another, it'll be their own demise. It won't be yours, because what? You are the gift of the universe. You are the gift of the universe, and you have been gifted by the universe to be the inhabitant of this great new expression and evolvement of creativity. This is like literally a gift. It's prosperity from the divine. It's literally being given permission from the almighty source, which force in which you surrender to or submit to live your life as it's been ordained for you to do so. Without apologies, this is the resources to do it, this is the energy to do it, the vitality to do it, and it's the extras, that extra unique little special something that everybody has in their own right to do it in a way that looks different from the other, so that you don't even feel beholden to any conformity or convention, because what you express there's no comparison for. It's like no need for competition. As I said, this is giving me competition. That's what's falling short here. This is people that are still looking to even compete with the spirit itself. Like, that's not what God said, or trying to compete for some higher authority of righteousness one to another, that old spirit of judgment where people want to like to prop themselves up against the other and tell you what's righteous and tell you what's admissible in God's eyes by way of what they've divined to be so. That energy will self-sabotage itself. It'll either be so confined to its own restrictions and conventions that it won't be able to live life fully, or like I said, it'll literally self-destruct and fall to the wayside until hopefully ultimately it'll see that the foundations, that they've built for themselves are sinking sand, and that they get to clear the way for something more fortifying. They get to receive the gift of their existence and the gift of life as it's been divine for them to experience it and receive it and ultimately express it as they've also been given invitation and authority to do, But this Ace of Pentacles is like the biggest expression of prosperity. And look, I love this because you got that point of this is beautiful. You got that point of sowing and investment. That's the word I'm trying to get out. This point of investment here where you invested what seemed very small in the grand scheme of things, in energy and time and attention, persistence, to be very attentive to your own crop. Like, he's looking at what he has to grow, what he's been cultivating. And that insistence alone on your own energetic field, in your own energetic field of dreams, literally, has brought you all the way here to the Ace of Pentacles. And this is the seed that never dies. It's infinite. So where he thought he just, remember I was saying perception is key. He thought he just manifested, or could have, the highest vibration of him is that he saw that one seed and he said, we got something, let's go. Here is the Six of Cups. Then he becomes, it's like a continuous growth pattern here. He could have got stopped short here, back into old cycles, thinking that just wasn't enough to sustain him. But he allowed that one seed to grow into a spiritual garden, and then even position himself to be in partnership with others that perhaps could even help him cultivate, more hands being better than his two, help to cultivate a garden, and it being sanctified in a way or surrendered to the spirit of the most supreme source that he, yields to be magnified in an even more magnificent way, averting his attention from these points of distraction from what the naysayers may have had to say, or what even his old inner conflict may have wanted to draw him into. And what did that ultimately afford him? But literally the keys to the secret garden. That's what this looks like here. I always feel like that's like the secret garden in the back. But what the Ace of Pentacles is just like I said, it's a seed that can grow. It can grow in dividends, It is from the Most High, it's from an ethereal source, so it literally has infinite potential. It can become anything that you sow it into. It can become the business. It can become an investment in your education, in your creativity, in your hobbies, in your expression of your creative self, in that next book that you want to write. You can invest into the expressions of you creatively that just bring joy to your heart and fulfill your spirit, and end up with a multi-million-dollar establishment or dynasty of sorts even, So that's what's in with the new, literally finding material value in your spiritual investments, and spiritual in the sense of it being pure to your nature and to your organic force, not religious. I'm not saying that if you feel left out. It's not my intention to make you feel like that, because this most certainly is not what that's about. This is very inclusive to those that are intentional about being surrendered to their most supreme self, that expression of source through you that is just dying to have a place to play ultimately, and you are that playground. Okay. So yeah, so and then this came out too, but that wasn't the absolute bottom, but I'll allow it quickly. So as I said, the Queen of and this is great. The Queen of Swords was the bottom of the last spread. The King of Swords is the masculine expression of the Queen of Swords, and this is just like truth. This is like the expert in his field. That's what the King of Swords is giving me. Like he's the genius expression of creativity in his craft. Whatever it is that he puts his mind to, he's the one that you go to as the, you know, the source, the wealth of knowledge. You know, he knows how to strategize, you know, and intellectualize a way to build things, you know, to create things and make them work in their in a way that is going to be most efficient, you know, and most sufficient as well, and prosperous. And it's connected to Pentacle energy, which definitely connects to the prosperity of it all. It's not just a wealth of information and knowledge for knowledge's sake, but it's for the sake of a magnified prosperity, a continuance of prosperity, so that you always have the intel to do more and to be more and to have more. And that's what these two cards are expressing here. It's like a small Page of Pentacles becomes the balance of a whole community, you know, with the Six of Pentacles here. It literally is balance with this. It's like a diplomat. It's equal give and take. Is also the expression of a gift. So I think what it's doing is doubling down on what I said, that some small investments can actually multiply in major ways for you, just on account of your willingness to perceive them as something valuable and receive them in the same regard. You know, so someone could come with an investment from the outside looking at, or it could be an investment that you make as well. But I see this, since we've already done that here, I see this more in the partnership perspective with the equal give and take card here. This is literally an exchange of energies, meaning that if you're willing, oh, that's good. If you're willing to invest your expression of expertise, even in the smallest ways, the return it will return to you in dividends. So as you kind of find the blueprint for your life experience, you can add value to the universe. You can add value to society, ultimately here with the Six of Pentacles represented, in a way that may seem to be a small, you know, penny in a bucket, a drop in the bucket in the universal perspective, but that can make all the difference in literally evening out and balancing out the playing field for others, bringing balance to other people's lives. Number one, because they've seen you as an example of what is possible, the lack of limitations within you. That can go back to even these two people here. These two people that have been in this ivory tower, maybe they may fall by the wayside, and maybe they may need a little bit of help, you know, finding their security and grounding again even in the energetic sense, if not the actual material sense, perhaps both, who knows. But your expression of truth in its purest form, this whole process here that you've allowed yourself to go through, is now the receipt for them to create their own blueprint. Now you can be in a position to give to those that may not be in a position to help themselves, perhaps those that you feel assigned to. It doesn't mean you have to give beyond your means or beyond your capacity, or even feel obligated to give in a material sense, but this is more speaking to the energetic force of inspiration that you hold. King of Swords, you have a great wealth of knowledge now because you've seen the process through. You've been down and out. You've been in the trenches, literally, in the Ten of Swords. You may have even backtracked a few times from prosperity and abundance to back into those old mindsets, and you've allowed yourself to grow a garden in a spiritual sense and sanctify it in a way that wasn't even tangible, that may have not even made sense. Sometimes the ways of the high priestess look strange to other people that are looking down on their ivory towers. But ultimately, you have the receipts of your reward in real time to show that a small spiritual investment can go a long way, even in the material sense. It can gain you a fortune. You are the keeper of that knowledge now. Even under the high priestess, it's a call to not necessarily gatekeep that information, but to express it wholeheartedly, to express it openly, honestly, truthfully, without inhibition, to express to anyone that might be interested to listen, if they're willing, open to listen. But the expression is even more so in just being the example of living a full life. It doesn't, like I said, it doesn't always mean that you literally go and give all your money to the needy, but your expression of life in its most authentic, organic form, from that small seed of hope, of faith, of love, of persistence, is now what others will be inspired by to literally pick themselves up from the spiritual bootstraps and create their experience and follow the process through, because they've seen it done. Now they have the receipts to know what's possible, and they'll be empowered to do it for themselves. That's the gift, literally, that infinite seed that keeps on giving. Thank you, Spirit, because that's what it really is. That's that evidence of prosperity, of possibility, of infinite possibility, of no limitation, literally, that all things are possible with God, is the seed that keeps on giving. Because once you become the highest expression of that, there's no resistance to that truth. There can't be, because you're the living, breathing, walking evidence, and you're the expert in that field of experience. And when other people can connect to that, then they'll be released from their chains of limitation, hopefully not necessarily thrown out, but liberated, I'll say, from their ivory towers, which are ultimately just methods of protection and, obsession with security and the conventions of acceptance that we've all been conditioned by in some way or another. It takes a strong individual to break that chain, to break that cycle, and to do something different, to be something different, to have a new experience of life. And when you are exalted, in a sense, because this is like a diplomat in the Six of Pentacles, to be able to do that in the most honorable and integral way, might I add, because that's what the King of Swords is in the upright. He's integral with his pursuits. He's honorable. He's honest. He's doing things in the upright. This is the sword of truth here. He's not making a dollar by any means necessary. That's not the King of Swords vibration. He's using the intellect, the intel, and in the most honorable way to invest in himself and create the harvest energetically, in the spiritual sense, and allowing it to become material. And then this is in with the new is also the recognition that what you have to offer is not just for you, it's for others too, in every way, shape, and form. If you go the extra mile and actually share the wealth in the physical sense, more power to you. I'm sure you'll be blessed for it if it's within assignment that's been divine to you, because you can also squander it thinking that you are obligated to do so because you have it, and that's the adverse effect. But when you're in alignment, as the high priestess here is projecting, with your assignment to be a lender, and to be a benefactor, to be a financier, to be a philanthropist in some regard, to, just add value into whatever community you're a part of or serve or connect to, or whatever cause that you feel inspired by, that most certainly is the gift that keeps on giving. You become the gift that keeps on giving just by the way of your example of benevolence. That's a blessed state of being, and it's a blissful way of life. Ultimately, you will never be poor with a spirit that operates in that way. Okay, so that's what's in with the new, and I love it. That was even more exciting than the first. Thank you so much for indulging me. I like to switch it up every now and again, especially on Saturdays. I get bored with the same old thing. just blame it on the Sagittarian sun in me. But I just wanted to switch it up just a bit. Out with the old, in with the new. There's something of value in both readings for sure. I hope you receive it, receive what resonates as you will, in spirit and in truth. And until next time, peace.